A very warm welcome to everybody. I think there are people here from across the country with a deep interest in wanting to start some sort of community composting in their place. So today, the reason why we got together a few people who have already been amazing champions in their own communities is that we felt there was a very strong need. COVID sort of put everything on a back seat, and things which were running really well were, put on the back burner with not so much focus happening on waste management. Uh, but I would say I am quite delighted that in Gurgaon things were working the other way. The administration became quite proactive and sent out notices to communities to start composting in the next 2 months. Already we've been through a process where we have impaneled members, vendors who can help with composting. So it became easier for people to get the list, but many people in these times cannot move around and look what's happening in other places. So the basic thought for all of us, for Veena, Keshav, Jean, and I, and many others, was the desire to bring these solutions to people who are now thinking of starting in their own community. So we hope that this session is useful. And before we start, I want to share a very small story which really touched me. And I heard this story long time back about this farmer who grew corn. And he, for years on end, would get the best corn and the best price for his corn. And people used to always ask him, "What do you do? What is it so special that you get such great corn in your ground, and you always tend to get the best price?" So he said, "Well, I do grow the best seeds, but what I do is I share my seeds with all my neighbors, all the farmers in the neighborhood." So this is what we do. So he said that because if you understand pollination, if the neighborhood farms have good corn, I will have a well pollinated farm, and as a result of which, I can reap the harvest of a very good quality corn. So the whole idea is on sharing. It is not just on what you're doing right, but if you also share and spread the knowledge, the information, and the gems that you have acquired with your practice, is that the love can grow, the quality can grow. Here I'm talking about the quality of the air, the quality of the soil, which we all share, the water. A lot of it is dependent on how we manage not only our homes, but our communities. And just going on to say that how that farmer spread the beautiful seeds in the whole vicinity, I think we need to be like this very diligent farmer and learn from him. So today's session, we will start with Veena Padmanabhan. She was in the corporate world with Wipro for 17 years. Veena, you can switch your video on. In HR and sustainability, a couple of years in Schneider Electric, and for the last few years, gainfully unemployed, as she says. She has been volunteering environment-related initiatives in Gurgaon and volunteers with the Community Library Project, a free library initiative in Delhi NCR. Veena comes from Richmond, and Richmond has high-rise buildings which have 19 floors and 2 towers. So over to Veena now to talk about how they do community waste management in Richmond.
So our journey started back 6 years back now. And actually, if you look around, the conversation was entirely about how filthy Gurgaon is becoming. So I'm talking about 2014, and folks had come into Gurgaon in, say, around about 2000, 2002. It was still relatively not as populated, and therefore the filth was not visible. So that was a conversation then in 2014, that how do we avoid and what is it that we can do. This slide is a recent slide. For those who are from Gurgaon, all these images are about 5 kilometers from where we are in Richmond Park. Whether it's the Bhanwari plant, there are two pictures with the fire smoldering and the rack pickers is your Bhanwari plant. Or if you see the drain, That's a Wazirabad Chakarpur Bandh. You can see it below, which is all cleaned up. Or if we see this water body, freshwater body, this is right behind Bhanwari, which is the Faridabad Gurgaon landfill. So what is it as a community should be doing? So some guiding principles overall, which we think are essential for any community to have a successful waste management and composting. The absolute must before anything else is a good source segregation at household level, where the kitchen waste and only the kitchen waste, so not even any kitchen tissues or anything else like a sachet or a milk sachet, nothing. Kitchen waste alone. Dry waste, be it recyclable, non-recyclable, I think all of us are familiar with whether it's a cardboard, paper, plastic. Non-recyclable will be your Lay's chips packet and so on, right? So dry waste, where we request everyone to clean the food particles, if any, from outside and keep that dry. Biomedical waste, especially in these times, I think it has taken a really critical need, if more than ever. Unfortunately, we're seeing a proliferation of gloves, masks, and a bunch of other things which are thrown about. So that, how do we treat that separately? And e-waste. These are some things which need to be put in place before we start about the next step of community composting. So these are the initial first steps which you will need to have. The second important thing, and this may not be as relevant for high rises, apartment complexes, gated complexes, this is quite relevant for independent bungalows where there may not be a robust door-to-door collection process, right? So these two are some guiding principles for any community leaders going ahead with the composting process. If we move on, the next set is look for a vendor if you're going for outsourcing for a local presence and if possible a buyback assurance, which helps you to know that the quality of compost or the output is good. I think the trickiest, unfortunately, is the whole NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? Issue which comes in where people assume that just because waste is being handled, that there will be smell, there will be a mess, and therefore let it be anywhere, but let it not be next to my house. Whether it is a composting setup, whether it's a dry waste setup, or whether it's a landfill, I think that's what it lands up being. So this is something which to me is largely a perception issue. As someone put it, people smell with their eyes. So just because I think that there's going to be composting there or waste is going to come there, I assume that there's going to be smell. So what can be, this is something which I feel is fairly important to get. So we took the consent of the owners who was right next to the place. Even then, we struggled with it because some people decided to make it an issue. So this is something which I feel is important to factor in. And there definitely will be movement of staff. There will be compost coming out. It needs to be cured. So all that which just needs to be factored in when we are deciding. If you move on to the next one, I have some pictures to just show. So the daily process, in the last 1 month, we made a small change in the process. But yes, there's a door-to-door collection. We are close to 280 flats in Richmond Park. And we have a neighboring complex of 35 flats. There also, their waste comes into our compost plant. We have dry waste and biomedical reject to get people into the habit of understanding the separation of this. For the last month, we made that we collect dry waste on alternate days and biomedical and reject waste on alternate days and wet waste daily. What this has done is that it has sort of primed people to understand that what is dry waste and what is not dry waste. So it's just a question of habit that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, dry waste, other 3 days is biomedical waste. And then the wet waste comes to the compost plant. If you move on. So this is how it looks like. We have, this is a compost plant where the Wet waste, this is the wet waste process. The wet waste gets crushed. So we have close to 120 to 150 kgs of kitchen waste which comes daily. And we have a fair amount of green waste. So up to 900 kgs to a ton depending on the weather, the time of the year, as well as if there's been a storm or so on, then we get more. So we have the wet waste which gets crushed, washed, and it gets put in these boxes and layered. And if you see the picture on the extreme right side, that's the compost, which has got covered with white sheet in the rainy days. Now, this is the wet waste process. In our process, yes, there's definitely some electricity used, not a lot, because for shredder, if you see the orange machine is the green leaves and dry leaves shredder. It runs for about half an hour a day, depending on the amount of green waste. So sometimes of the month year, it runs for an hour, sometimes half an hour. And if you see the on the extreme, if I start from the left, the wet waste comes in the green bins. Depending on the amount of green leaves, there are green leaves kept on the side. Secondary segregation which happens, for example, coconut, both the green and the brown cannot go into this. Or if we, in our process, some of the, like the mango seeds, we take it separately and dry it separately, crush it and then gets added. But rest of the waste, if you see, it just gets checked once to ensure that there's no other contamination of any kind. And I'm glad to report that we've not had any contamination. It gets crushed to manage the space requirements. The crusher is different, and we also have a washing system. And if you notice the picture on the right side, after it gets crushed, it gets washed, and that water we collect and we use it in our lawns. So our soil, we got it tested, it's alkaline. This water is acidic slightly, and our lawns are thriving. So this water doesn't go into the sewage, it gets used. Okay, can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So as I said, we started in May. Actually, the awareness process started in April, and it was good for us that there was a big campaign by Hindustan Times, Coca-Cola Tetra Pak about a Do Bin campaign. So in some senses, it was a good timing. All these center pages of all papers were carrying issues with landfill and so on. So to think, this law has been in place since 2000. Municipal Solid Waste Act has been there since 2000, but just goes to show that the extent of awareness or lack of will to even get it implemented. So I'm glad Gurgaon in the last few years has been making the effort, the NCG. So when we started it, there was no legal mandate or NCG mandate for us to do it. It was good for us that many people felt that this was the right thing to do, and definitely something which we can afford to do. And most condos in Gurgaon can easily afford to do if you look at the future generations. What is it that we're leaving for them? So one-time cost for us was 8.6 lakhs, mostly half of it nearly for the shed and half for the equipment. The shed, we needed to make sure that it looks good, it remains good, it matches the color scheme. We didn't want a sheet where the rain falling on it will make a noise, so we had to get some architects to design it well. So this was the one-time cost for us for the shed and equipment. Monthly expense is largely labor, wherein we pay whatever the minimum wages are and the PF, ESI and the rest of it. That was something which we wanted. We wanted it outsourced because in the year 2009-2010, I think I must share it here for anyone who's starting this, we did experiment composting, but without household segregation, without outsourcing. What this means is that most of us know in our RWAs, the staff is completely optimized. So if we ask someone else to do something extra, the work suffers, number one. Number two, because we didn't mandate household segregation, there was a fair amount of extra segregation effort which was going in, and everyone filed it away as a failed experiment in composting. This is 2009-2010. When 2014, we went back and looked at it, we said these were the two glaring reasons for the failure. No household segregation, and number two, no dedicated manpower, whichever manpower, whether it's direct with you, you outsource it, like it or not, there's an extra effort involved in the whole process which needs to be factored in. So whether labor, supervision, consumables are mostly like the gloves, the masks, as well as some bit of lime which gets used. There are no other additives. And of course, if anyone wants to look at monetary savings, yes, there are some monetary savings. If I compare this 40 rupees per flat, and this because we don't anyway buy any more compost. If I look at it, DDA flats in Delhi are charging anywhere between 100 to 150 rupees per flat for simply picking up the waste and dumping it in one common place. And here we are talking about end-to-end processing of the wet waste. So close to 5,000 kgs are processed every month. There's no compost purchase for the complex. It's free for residents. Our compost actually, thanks to Green Bandhu, went to Rashtrapati Bhavan as well a few years back, where some of the people from Rashtrapati Bhavan Horticulture Department had come to one of their sites to check. So those were the days when there was a buyback arrangement with Green Bandhu. Now the entire compost gets used for the last 4 years now. Our compost gets used entirely in the complex. Residents come and pick it up for their balcony gardens. These are some of the pictures. I keep saying I wish there were more and more pilgrimage sites like this in India and in our cities. I think our garbage room and our compost site are one of the most visited by the outsiders. You can see the different pictures. We also have taken to mulching in a big way, and when you have crushed leaves, shredded leaves, it becomes much easier to mulch and therefore save on the water which is being used for the gardening. E-waste separate, we got recognized by both MCG, Haryana government, as well as the Government of India, Swachh Bharat. One of the other things, anyone looking into community composting, you will find that your entire process will need to be looked at how we collect garbage of any kind. So if you see in the picture on the right side, you have the Mali who's collecting the flowers and leaves alone in that cycle rickshaw. So it's essential that everyone learns to, so there will be some amount of plastic waste which has flown into the park or something, which gets removed, and only this then comes into the composting site. The last two images, this is something which is definitely a big challenge in COVID time. How is it that we can communicate? So this was early days, we engaged with the kids, involved the children. This is the other one where we had all the helps coming in, sitting, understanding. So we've done multiple sessions with our staff, obviously initially at the early days. And also remember, staff will keep changing, residents keep changing, moving in, moving out. So how is it that you keep engaging with the staff? We also have these posters available at the main gate. Whenever one of new maid comes in, our guard is in a position to explain to them. And they're all visuals. If you notice, most of our posters are visual heavy so that anyone can explain it, right? So the challenges are get the buy-in. There's so many of you. I'm really heartened, 81 of us here. Get the buy-in. I think most of us who are watching this here can definitely afford it. And there is a fear, and therefore more important for sessions like these, of fear that composting is harmful, forgetting the fact that mixed waste going into landfills is far more harmful than any kind of composting done. And generations of Indians and people worldwide have composted their own waste near their homes, in farms and so on. So there is this fear. But if it's well segregated waste with no fear of biomedical contamination, sanitary napkins, diapers or e-waste, it's absolutely safe. Continuous education, and as I said, challenging to have any kind of large gatherings. And I think that would be my last slide. So these are some of the posters. We made some refresher campaign in terms of there are people increasingly with a lot of pets. So how do we ensure and understand that the pet waste is separate? There's a small error in the second one. There is a diabetic medicine thing which should be e-waste. Technically, it shouldn't be in this case. We'll get it edited. but all the other things are biomedical waste. And then an overall one, where is the wet waste, dry waste, biomedical waste rejects, and e-waste.
Veena, thank you so much. I have a few questions for you. And
Yeah.
very quickly, I mean, because we are running short of time, very quickly, there have been a few questions which people wanted to know that you're using an electric shredder, right? The shredder
I did mention that yes, there's some amount of electricity used. The shredder is electric because it has to manage 1 ton of waste a month.
Yeah.
So we need to get it manageable.
And
we also crush the waste. So there's electricity.
And how frequent are your e-waste drives?
So e-waste for us is about once in a couple of months. So ours is a relatively quote unquote older complex in the sense that average age is older. And we are 250 to 80 flats, but the younger condos definitely are seeing a much higher uptick.
Okay. So thank you so much, Veena. That's been a very, very informative session that you've shared all the information. And I think we'll come back if you have more questions for you.
Sure.
So all the contact details of the speakers are there in this presentation. You can note her email ID and get in touch with Veena if you have any questions later. Okay, so to introduce Jean very briefly, Jean is an amazingly calm, very, very inspiring and gentle person. And I don't know how she's found her way around managing to convince her whole community to segregate and compost. And so Jean is actually has been an HR professional for around 17 years and educator for the past 13 years. Her love for sustainability started with her own home composting and then inspiring her community to compost. So let's see what Jean has to say about her community, which is Laburnum. They have a mix of row houses and buildings with 5 and 18 floors. So over to Jean now.
Yeah, thanks, Monica, and hello, everybody. I look forward to taking you through our processes. So we started our process with the easiest first step, which is the collection of e-waste. So we have 2 e-waste bins, which are kept at a common area, and we collect throughout the month. We move the stuff to our basement where we store it, and when we have enough, then we connect with one of the registered e-waste companies. One important thing to keep in mind here is to check that their certification is up to date, because the certification that is given to the e-waste companies is valid only for a limited period. So then they come and they pick it up, and that's the way we manage our e-waste. So when starting out on this process, one of the important things to do is what you have rightly done today is log on to this call to learn as much as you can. So what we did is we actually physically visited in a group of about 10 people, several of the sites where people were already working on this. We did a lot of reading, lots of websites, and I've just given one in this example, but there are lots of websites. So the whole team needs to be very, very educated on what are the various options and what has worked for somebody and not worked for someone else. Creating awareness through mailers, light-hearted mailers, not too often, not too many, in order to win engagement. I do know that there are several condominiums where people have gone into battles and loggerheads with each other over this whole issue. So I think it's critically important to win the community over. This is a very, very important step. Training is again another key step. Before you even begin the segregation, it's important to get the housekeeping staff to understand why we are entering into this whole arena, because it means more work for them. So what is the logic of it? It's very important to sensitize and make them understand. So we realize that they come from not very educated backgrounds. So therefore, it's extremely important to make them understand why. Once the process is defined, very detailed process training is essential, because there's a tendency for them to forget or to be a bit slack sometimes, perhaps. So training is very, very important. And in the case of our condominium, the training was given importance. Residents made time to be present at the training. So the housekeeping staff felt that it was something of great importance. And of course, to make it more attractive, some light refreshments. Then training of the domestic staff who work in the homes. This is also equally important. So we ran it a few times on a given day in batches. So you covered people who came and left in different time slots. So we had 4 time slots and we ran the same training again. A lot of residents were present. Some came with their domestic help. So that helped to emphasize the importance of why, and then of course the process, the how. Something we learned from one of the other condominiums was the tracking. So you make a small rubber stamp saying trained in segregation, and you put it on their gate pass. So that helps you to know that, you know, some particular maid hasn't been trained. And so you have a target audience again, perhaps after 3 or 4 months. Again, to make it attractive, some light refreshments always help. So pilot for segregation is what we did first in 2 buildings, one high-rise and one of the 5-storied buildings. We just checked out whether it was working. There is a website called 2 Bins and 1 Bag. That is an excellent website from which we learned a lot. So the pilot worked well. We actually visited each and every home. Now this may not be feasible for all condominiums, but in our case, people who had lived there for several years said that would be the best way to convince the community. So we divided it among the waste management team members, and we personally visited each and every home with a prior appointment. We spoke to the residents as well as to their domestic help. And I do believe that that was a lot of the reason why we won so much engagement with the community. We put up posters. Occasionally we sent out mails encouraging people to, you know, segregate better. So that also helped. Now coming to the choice of composting method, this is a very big decision once you've gone through all the various methods, because it's extremely important to understand which method will work for your condominium. There is no one size fits all. So it's extremely important to understand the space available, the budget available, the kind of community layout, whether it's only high-rise, only villas. And as Veena rightly said, the proximity to certain homes, this is very important. So you need to identify a method that will suit you. One of the very important things is, once before you get into the whole system, prepare the place very nicely. So on the suggestion of Well-Wisher, we used epoxy paint. I'll show you pictures as we go along. This has helped to really maintain the hygiene and the look of the place, because it's an easy, clean and long-lasting solution. We've painted the walls with oil paint, so it's an easy wipe and surfaces can be cleaned. Good illumination is very important. The person working in the waste area must not feel that he is absolutely at the rock bottom of the whole pyramid. He must feel that he's in a decent place. And of course, exhaust systems must be explored. You don't want to have a place that smells. So exhaust systems are very important. So the product that we used is from a company called the Daily Dump. The owner of the Daily Dump is based in Bangalore. The company is based in Bangalore. And the owner is a designer who has, you know, gone into designing waste solutions and has designed some excellent solutions, and she's won several awards for the same. So the product that we chose is called the Aga. So you can see it here, and the website details are given already. And the process is that you put into one Aga 18 kgs of waste, top it with a layer of dry cocoa peat and a few spoons of the accelerator powder, which the company itself provides. Now, the number of agas you need is entirely dependent on the number of homes. So roughly, because an aga takes about 18 kgs of wet waste in a day, our condominium has 250 homes. So we calculated and arrived at 16 agas, which are kept on 2 sides of the wall. So there are 2 sets of 8 agas each. Now, the beauty of this product is that it does not use any additional electricity and any additional water, which for us was a big plus. We fabricated a sorting table made of pure stainless steel. So the wet waste is put on this part of the table, and then there's a bucket kept below here, and the person just has to use a spatula to push the waste here. This is just a last level checking to see that by any chance, you know, a bit of aluminum foil or something hasn't got in. So this is the dry cocoa peat. Cocoa peat is available in 5 kg bricks. Each brick costs around 150 rupees. The brick has to be soaked in water, for which we use our gardening water. And then it is spread out. This is in our basement. It is spread out. Once it's soaked, it becomes soft and it becomes breaks up into particles. It's dried out like this, and then once it's dry, it's put into a bori and it's kept ready for use. So welcome to our waste management area. This is what it looks like in real. So as you see, the oil paint on the sides, the epoxy paint on the floor. This area was an absolute dump before that, and it was completely transformed with a lot of effort on the part of our estate management team. So on the entrance door, no, please go back, Monica. Yeah. On the entrance door, we have one exhaust fan, and then of course the already existing basement systems. Yes, Priyanka Dev, thank you for saying so clean. It looks beautiful. It really is. Okay. And we put maybe some, aromatic lamp, one lamp around the place just to give it a nice feel. Yeah. So the process that takes place inside the agar is largely because of the heat generated as well as the accelerator powder. The heat generated within helps the composting to happen fast. We were told initially that within 21 days or 30 days, your compost is ready. But what we do is when one set is full, we begin to fill the next set. And so we leave it to compost a little longer in the agar. Once it has composted, we happen to have some additional large drums. So what we do is that we move this ready compost into the drums and we let it lie there for 2 to 3 months. So it's actually really good compost, because by the time people are using it, it's 3 to 4 months from the time it is ready. Okay, so there is absolutely no smell. There is no scope for rodents to get in. There is no scope for the worms that may form inside for the composting process to get out. The top of the agar has a keyhole, so you can lock it, and the bottom also has a keyhole, so you can take out the compost using a key. Now coming to the previous slide, Monica. Yeah, coming to the pickup of the wet waste from homes. Initially, we moved people to green biodegradable bags, but subsequently we discouraged them from using bags because we said, now we have the composting in-house, so why use a bag just to move it from your apartment to the basement? So we searched long and hard, and this is the bin that I really highly recommend. We finally traced, the manufacturers are in Daman, but we traced a wholesale supplier in Old Gurgaon market. So this is essentially nothing but a green bucket. This part and the lid are one piece. So you can just lift the bucket out, and it is so easy to then just rinse the bucket. Then of course we suggested, for those who weren't able to get this, we suggested these simple pull-out bins which make it very easy to just rinse, so that you have minimal resistance from maid servants about washing the bin. Yeah. Now how do we pick up the wet waste from the homes? So this was our existing bin, the large bin in which we used to earlier take mixed waste. So we had a welder working on some gates at the time. So we got the welder to make this frame, and we bought buckets with a lid. Of course, the lid is not on here. And this frame was added on by the welder, and we fit the bucket here. So when the housekeeping staff go to the house, they just put the wet waste directly into this, and the dry waste goes into the big bin. Dry waste is obviously more voluminous, so you need much more space. And when this is about to fill up, they go to the basement and empty it out, and then they're back again to pick up. About every 3 months or so, we have a mailer going out to residents. We give residents 5 kilos of compost free of charge. We don't provide bags. They need to send their own bags in. What do we do with our dry waste? We still haven't reached a stage of maturity in this process. So we are in talks with a company called Max Exchange, who pick up even the multi-layered plastic, your chips packets, and the very thin plastic in which some biscuits are lined, which is used for lining biscuits, sorry. So unfortunately, COVID came in between. So we were about to set up a system where we collect in the basement in categories: metal, glass, paper, and plastic, 4 categories. So because of entry restrictions and so on, we haven't managed to do it. But I do know that our neighboring condominiums have tied up with Max Exchange, and it's working fine. Recently, I visited Samadhan Hub in Gurgaon. It's run by IIM Gurgaon. a very, very beautiful, unique park, which actually has bins for various categories, including one of the most difficult categories, that is Malba. So if there is some repair work done at your house and there are bits of cement or concrete, you can actually go there and drop them in the bin. Yeah, some thoughts that I would like you to consider when you think about your program is children, of course, play a very powerful role in a community, especially when it comes to segregating. They are the ones who will say, Dadaji, wo plastic usme nahi jayega, isme jayega. So children have a very powerful role to play. Lighting is very important. Keep your waste area bright, cheerful, and free of odor. Believe me, this really makes the housekeeping feel special about their space. Every year on October 2nd, we have a program for the housekeeping staff in that area itself. We request people who have worked in this area to come and address them, and we give them a gift in that area, and it just feels like a wow program. So this feeling is very important to keep your program sustained. Yeah. So rewarding and honoring staff, giving a special gift, rewarding the supervisor who does all the real hard work in this. These are all very important aspects of making your program succeed. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Jean. That was really nice. And we love the way you lit up and made it smell really good and special for the workers. And I think that is a key factor in keeping the staff invested in the working space. Because very often we just completely forget, and in fact forget to even acknowledge their presence as contributors in any part of our facility. So that was a wonderful pointer. I want to thank you for that, Jean. And I think
my pleasure.
Most of your questions on the chat have been answered by Smita. So thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
I want to introduce Keshav here. Keshav is an adventure and outdoor enthusiast, having established low-cost sustainable solutions in waste and water in his community. And he now helps other communities set up similar projects with awareness, talks, hands-on workshops, and consulting. He is also an urban permaculturist and a forest healing guide.
The reason why Garden Estate went in for this system, because we wanted it to be completely natural. And a food cycle tells you how everything happens, and all what is alive at one point is returned to the soil and becomes organic matter and is again used. So this is what we do. And this is where the real problem lies for all of us. You eat the animals, we eat the plants, and all kinds of mixed waste is put in a black plastic bag and sent out to the landfills. And so the biggest problem we are creating is, of course, the landfills and the toxic waste there. But we are also not returning the organic matter to the earth. And if you keep taking out the nutrients, what do? You will then land up using synthetic fertilizers and toxic pesticides to grow your food, rather than return all this organic matter to the soil. So there's a food hierarchy, and in my longer lecture, I discussed this in great detail, but we have to start thinking of reduced consumption, which is not even mentioned here. Automatically reduced waste food will come if you reduce your consumption. I don't mean eat less, but eat carefully and only buy what you want to eat. Then donate excess food, feed animals. We actually send all our grass to a gaushala. So find ways. And during COVID, we've sent half our waste for kitchen waste for feeding animals, strays and all, or pigs who just didn't have any food and were starving. And then you talk about compost. So it comes further down. First, try some of these things to reduce your waste. Composting happens as this slide says. All you need to worry about is carbon and nitrogen, which is your horticulture waste, browns, and your greens, which is your kitchen waste. And to that, you got to think about water and air, and then let all the macro and microorganisms do their work. You don't need to labor. You don't need to use machines. You don't need to use electricity. Let nature do its job. Next, please. It's simple. It's very easy. But see, it's like cooking. When we, next slide, please. When we do cooking for about 10 people, it's very easy. Each one of us can do it. But when we have to cook for 1,500 people, it's a different story. So you need different size of equipment, different expertise to do it all. This is a slide on nature. In nature, nobody talks about carbon, nitrogen, Back, please. Nobody talks about carbon and nitrogen or how much water or not. It just keeps happening on its own. The problem is that we humans dump 500 kgs of waste every day in one single place, or 1,000 tons in a landfill. Obviously, it's only going to be a mess there and create problems for everybody. Next, please. So Garden State composting was all about low cost, natural, do it yourself composting. We have 373 flats and houses, 23 acres of land with lots of trees, lots of horticulture, lots of flowers. And it's an asset that we really enjoy. The space required for a composting unit is roughly about 2/3 of a tennis court, plus about another half a badminton court for where we keep it for curing. Typically, we do 20 to 25 kgs of kitchen waste every single day, and a similar quantity of horticulture waste. Mind you, horticulture waste is a real issue for us because we've got so much of greenery. So we've got to find ways to use it. Composting has really helped us to solve half the problem. The other half is solved by mulching in a big way, by using it in a stormwater drain. We were improving the soil structure to take in a lot more water. The project started in early 2016 after a very successful pilot projects for segregation and composting. The total cost of our project was only 50,000 rupees. This excludes the shed. Why 50,000 only? Because we did everything in-house. We have electricians, plumbers, a fabricator who's always hanging around the place. So we just got the wire mesh pins, put them in a circular motion and circular bin and started doing our composting. So you can just go to healingourcities.org site, and there's a YouTube which gives a complete composting and waste segregation system. Plus the second link is about a complete case study which you can also understand exactly what we do. This site also has very good information on, I think, Monica's Nirvana project, and a lot of good information videos on water and the Aravali saving issues that we are facing and other environment issues. So you can just go there. I also have an audio which is not online, and if anybody wants, the audio explains how I worked with my community and what are the issues I faced and how we managed to solve them. Next, please. This is how we start. Really simple. I mean, we just created a bin, put some jute on it, raised it off the ground for the leachate, and we experimented. So finally, after a month and 6 weeks, 6 weeks. So this was the kitchen waste which came to the place. And then this is what we took out of the compost, left it alone for another 15, 20 days for curing. Then we did a little sieving. And then what did we do? We invited the residents, make them part of the whole thing, and said, come over, let's see what happened when we started the bin. And sure enough, people came and we also gave them compost and they took it home. And here is how we hooked on the community, you know, by involving them at different stages, by talking to them, by giving them free compost initially. And it worked really well because the community suddenly started feeling, this is our project. We can all do this. It's easy to do and we should do it. So then we called a meeting. We had something like 85 people show up. When our annual general meeting, we have 20 people show up. That showed us that things are going in the right direction. This is what our composting unit looks like. Really back to basics. We have 12 bins, brick flooring, a roof on the top, all sides are open. We were fortunate that this is one corner and there is no issue of residents objecting to it. We had problems with sometimes smell came, sometimes it was a little messy, but we talked to the residents who had a problem and explained to them that we are just doing the process. In due course, it'll settle down. We'll all be fine. So bear with us. All we do is spend 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 people. They get the kitchen waste, segregate it further, mix it with some dry leaves and sawdust, and just load the bins. That's all we do. We don't do any cutting, segregation. Cutting or chopping and all. Some little bit of like gobi duntals and all we chop up. Leaves also, if they're very big, we try to let them settle down first in a bin, and then we start using them. This is what we get after about 5 weeks. We take it out and put it in another area for curing, and we just leave it there. Like Jean was saying, leave it. The longer your compost is curing, the better it gets, as long as it has the right moisture and the right aeration going with it. And this is what we finally get. Finally, we get black gold. This is the best thing. Once you get this kind of compost, then uh, you're totally hooked. And when the residents get it, they're also hooked because they know they're getting the best quality of compost they can get. It's made from the kitchen waste that they send. So it works well. Okay, so we also do Jugaad because all RWAs have expertise. They have plumbers, electricians, residents who can do a lot of interesting things because they're well qualified engineers and stuff. We took an ordinary shredder, took off the top, put a blue pipe, put a chilamchi so that we could feed more leaves into it easily. And the chopping worked well. Having said that, we don't use the chopper anymore. No more shredding. We just let nature do its job. And we also made a Jugaadu sieve. It's very simple. It's just some steel wire cycle rims with wire mesh on it. And we rotate it on wheels. From the other end, he puts it in. Good one goes down the sieve material. The one which is bigger comes this side, and we, after a few days, again do that. So use the resources within your community. There are lots of them. You just have to find, even materials are there. We actually did a marble flooring for the segregation part from marble received from one of the houses which had taken it out. Next, please. So till date, in 4.5 years, we run 700 tons of kitchen waste and horticulture waste. This has been diverted from a landfill. So that's a huge amount. That's literally half of one day's waste that Gurgaon generates. And we've come out with 70 tons of quality compost. We've been happily using it everywhere. 80% goes to our own estate. 10% is sold to residents and others. And 10% is given away to NGOs or whoever wants it. Now we've changed that. We just give it free to our residents also because it belongs to them. It's their right and we don't really charge. Another benefit of this is that higher quantity of recyclables are recovered, as it's normally people are more aware and keep it clean and dry. These were the challenges faced, and this is how we solve them. We can move on. They're very simple solutions that some of them Jean and Veena have already talked about. Next. Somebody has to take responsibility. How do you go about it? It has to be a community project, involve all shareholders, and the same process. A good idea is to do some kind of an audit and understand your waste. What type of waste, how much of it you're generating. And that will give you an idea on where you can move from there. And take the initiative and start. Don't keep wondering what to do next. Each one of us can make a difference. Next, please. So DIY is difficult because you have to do it hands-on. Somebody has to take full responsibility and you've got to have some space, but it can be done. We've had over 50 societies which have visited us. And the whole idea has been to inspire them and motivate them to start composting. Not about following our method, follow any method, but do it. These are the societies which have followed a DIY system like Garden Estate. And so many others came and have moved on and come up with different systems and adopted them. Okay, so if you can't do this, then you go the way Exotica went. They actually outsource it to a company called Balancing Bit. Let me tell you a little story about this. One gentleman, a youngster, came to me when our system was doing well and said, "Sir, I want to understand and learn all about how you compost." And he came, we had lots of discussions. He visited a couple of times. And he says, "Sir, I've made up my mind that I want to get into environment work. And this is the first thing I want to do. Start with waste management and a completely natural, as far as possible, composting system." So the gentleman's name was Rahul Khera, and he's from Balancing Bits, and he's running the project for Exotica. So this is how it is. This is something what it looks like. They use a small shredder for shredding some of the vegetables and the horticulture waste. But besides that, it's completely naturally. So this is the details of the compost plant maintained by Balance Bits, and the information's all there. Just contact him. He'll guide you. He has two models which you must understand. On-site model is for people who have place and they can do the whole composting there. So he offers you that. He has an off-site, very interesting model where if a smaller community doesn't have space and they have 100, 150 residents and they don't have enough place to do the whole process. So he semi-processes it there, then takes it out and processes it in a common composting area. So these are the number of projects he's already done, and there are some more. And you just get in touch with him; he'll be able to help you come up with solutions too. So how to select a composting system? These are some of the things that you should keep in mind. Please add any other things that you want. Recurring cost is very important. How much you want to spend. In today's COVID time, resources are limited. So you have to consider if you can do a low cost system. Land is a major issue always, because land is so valuable. People want to use the minimum possible. We are actually working on a double storied kind of a composting unit so that we can do it in lesser space in future. We are redoing our composting plant right now. Carbon footprint is important for some of us, and doing a natural composting is important. Electricity, water, and labor are very important because these will keep going up. The more you use them, the more the prices are in any case going to keep going up. And it should be system driven and not person driven, which means that any individual with a half an hour's training can actually do this composting. Ultimately, what do you want? Do you want good compost for your complex and for your residents, or you want to just ash or get rid of the whole thing? And lastly, my earlier speakers have also discussed this. Urban sensibilities are very important. So you have to do it in a neat, clean, proper way. So if any of you do decide to do a DIY, come visit our setup in Garden Estate. We'd be happy to show it. And to really show you some of the other low-cost projects that we've done, which will give you ideas of what you can do in your communities. Most importantly, we'll actually give you 5 kgs of compost to take it back to your RW and show them that this is what you can actually make in your community.
Thank you so much, Keshav. Veena, you could show his last slide with his contacts. And yeah, these are Keshav's details for those who want it. Thanks, Keshav.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I know, we're running out of time. So carry on.
So we'll quickly move to the last presentation for the day. So hello, everybody. This is Monica. I'm Monica, and I'm a resident of Nirvana. We have 135 acres township with around 900 independent bungalows and 16 parks. So on the right side, on your left side of the screen, you can see an idea. It's some of the bungalows are single story and some of them are duplex. So the first step, of course, for us also, like everybody else, was awareness. So we had separate sessions for the staff, the working staff, for the maids, and continuous reminders for the staff, the housekeeping, horticulture staff, not to mix while they're picking up also. Even though collection vehicles were separate, very often due to their old habits, they would just slip into a habit and start piling things together. So that was extremely critical that they were on board, and I think also on board for the right reasons. That they knew why what they were doing was helping in the environment and what we were going to get out of it. So we would very often bring them to the compost plant also, so that they could see what was happening. As Jean also said, that the first thing we did was put e-waste collection boxes and had e-waste drives. So we got all the residents to start storing the e-waste separate from wet waste and dry waste. As a result of which, every 3 months, we would call the e-waste recycler, who would be a government authorized recycler, and then give all the e-waste to him. Very often he would give some money in return, and sometimes he would just take the low value e-waste without any monetary exchange. So for segregation and collection, like most of my other friends have also spoken about, is that 2 bin 1 bag in is a wonderful website. It has a lot of resources and materials, posters, movies, videos, which you can share with fellow residents and neighbors to inspire them. And these leaflets, you can, I used one of the leaflets and I printed it for myself. And redesigned it with the MCG logo and the Nirvana logo, and adding the SWM rules on it, so that when it's in each household, they know that they have to follow the rules. And we also have horticulture collection is separate. So horticulture bin was added to the two bin one bag leaflet, and also e-waste. That e-waste has to be kept separate. So once the residents have very clear instructions that you have to keep all your waste streams separate, but slowly they come on board. And now horticulture is collected in either these e-rickshaws or the big tractor trolley. When you have the big prunings of the trees, then there's a big tractor trolley to pick up all the prunings, and the big wood pieces are kept for Holi and Lori in some corner, and the smaller pieces we keep them for the workers if they want to take it when they're going back home. A lot of them use it as fuel in their homes, so we don't like any part of the horticulture waste to go back waste, because we use the leaves in the compost plant. So the area and equipment, we have roughly 300 square yards of composting area. There is a weighing scale. You can see it here, the yellow one. So every day when the waste comes in from each block, supposing block A, it comes in and it gets weighed at this weighing scale. And this gentleman here, he makes a recording of how much waste has come in from block A and B, C, D, E. And likewise, at the end of the day, we get a summary of how much waste has come in, and we know how many homes there are. So it also helps us tabulate that which block is doing well in terms of segregation and which block is not doing well in segregation. So we have a weighing scale, we have this sorting table where they sort in case sometimes people throw plastic and all sorts of little pieces of cloth and tissues. So they do a secondary segregation here, and then it goes in this corner. You can see the shredder, food shredder, and that's where it gets shredded and it's ready to move on. This is where we've got our equipment from Kaustup Yadre Micro Compost in Pune, and there is a small mesh green bin from Aditi from stonesoup.in. I'll be showing it to you in a bit. We also have this horticulture shredder on the right bottom, which is a 3 HP 3-phase motor, runs quite well, does tend to blow a lot of dust, so you need to make sure that you're protecting your workers, and they have suits which cover their uniforms. Otherwise, they're going to be looking completely covered with black suit by the time they're ready to go home. The other part of the equipment are the 5 in-vessel drums, which you can see on the right corner. They are these round, long drums. And we have 12 metal curing bins, which are on top. You can see they're numbered. As in when when you start bin number 1, there's a date that's put to it and an end date put to it. So we know how long we have to rest it for it to be curing. Then there is the Aditi composter, which is at the bottom. It's made beautifully with a wire mesh, so no rodents can go in. And in fact, we also have our metal bins on top, which you can see, which are numbered, also have a fine metal mesh, because we were having a huge problem with rodents coming through the ground. As you can see, not all the ground is concrete. So we would have the whole rodent population of Nirvana attacking the food in these bins. And it was not a very pleasant sight, because every time you would visit, you would have these friends coming and peeping in from all sorts of places. So we decided to put this metal mesh, which is really fine, and it has completely stopped the food from being disturbed while it's getting composted. So the Aditi is it's a foldable composter. It's really nice because you can just compact it and pick it up and put it wherever you want. In fact, if you look at our whole solution, if tomorrow somebody says you have to move from this ground and this is not your home anymore, we can just pack up everything and move somewhere else. And I think that was the reason why we went for the solution, because we wanted something which we could just pick up and start again wherever we wanted. We weren't sure about the area that we had earlier for composting, whether it would stay with us. And that is what determined the solution that we took for our community with 900 homes. So here is the process very quickly. There's a link to the movie which Keshav was talking about. So you can go to this link later, Healing Cities, and you'll be able to see the 2 films. So the wet waste, which is the kitchen waste after shredding, he puts it in the round tumblers, the in-vessel, round tumblers, and then he's adding the leaves. The leaves are being added, the dry leaves, which have also been shredded by the horticulture shredder. you see dry leaves take a long time to disintegrate. Sometimes you will notice even when almost it's completely mulched and composted, but still you can see pieces of leaves which are still not fully disintegrated, because the processing time for leaves and horticulture is much slower. It's far more denser than food waste, which has more moisture. So we need to, the smaller the surface area, if you're shredding, then the surface area becomes smaller, becomes easier to compost. Third step, he rotates the bins, the drums, so that they don't become anaerobic. We need a fair amount of oxygen in it. And to keep them loaded with oxygen, they need to be moved once every day. So 5 or 6 circles is what they do every day. And at the bottom left, you can see that from the tumbler, one side from where it has been put in, it travels to the other end as the tumblers are moved. Every day, the waste moves from the left to the right. And within a span of a week, almost processed, like it's become black and a lot of the moisture has gone. It's semi-processed and it has reached the other end of the tumbler. We are also adding micro powder. Micro powder is added with the waste, 1 gram per kilo of waste. Micro powder is sort of sprinkled on the waste and then the leaves are added. So when they are rotating the drums, it all gets mixed up. So he harvests it from the other side and then we put it in the curing bins, the metal bins. In the curing bins, they stay there for a good 4 to 5 weeks. You can see there's a lot of heat happening while it's being raked. So it's raked occasionally so that the heat gets dispersed while the composting process is going on, and so that the whole pile gets composted and there are not some areas which are not composted. There's a fair amount of heat that's generated. And at night, we make sure even in the day that the composting bins are left covered so that the heat and the temperature is maintained at all times. Micro powder is added, and we also got something, it's called a waste decomposer. You can see here, it's made by a government laboratory in Ghaziabad. It's such a beautiful and amazing product. It's like one little bottle with a teaspoon of micro powder, all of like 12 or 15 rupees. And you can make this big 200-liter drum of enzyme. And this enzyme is then diluted 1:10. So 1 part of enzyme and 10 parts water. And then we spray it over our waste as it's decomposing every day. The leaves like to decompose a little slowly. So this waste decomposer really helps to aid in the decomposition process. And by the end of 6 to 8 weeks, we have fairly fine compost. The costs look like this. We have spent 8.5 lakhs for the whole infrastructure and the equipment, which roughly comes to about 1100 rupees per home. This whole money was spent by the RWA, the Resident Welfare Association of our community, from our funds. And I think the beauty is that the RWA came on board. And our most important part in a community venture is that you need to get your RWA on board. If you don't have an RWA, then the citizens need to come together and maybe just pool in the money and find a solution, which happens mostly in open house, houses which are not gated communities. You have that problem. I've noticed in Gurgaon too, where communities don't have RWAs. They have trouble taking a decision and going ahead. So that is one of the problems which many communities face. If you cannot have an RWA to support you, then maybe the residents should come together. We have a community called Malibu Town in Gurgaon, where the residents came together, led by a champion, and they went door to door collecting money and put together the money for the whole solution, and they put it together. So there are many ways in which it can be done. The electricity expense for us is roughly 3,500 a month. We have 2 full-time workers on the compost site, who are doing all that you saw in the previous slide. And we have 2 part-time workers who are doing the shredding at the leaf shredding site, and also, helping cleaning up and, drying out the compost and shredding, the food waste or whatever. So there is extra work, there's wear and tear. There's sometimes some parts are, they need oiling. These drums need oiling occasionally. So we need, you could say, 2 full-time and 2 part-time workers from our housekeeping itself. There are no extra cost. So we are using them every day. So who wins? It's a win-win situation for everybody. We have kept a major 680 tons of organic waste away from the landfill. And I think that's the beauty. Just imagine 1600 tons of waste sitting as a big pile in your landfill. We have Banwari. And so as a result of which, when the wet waste is separate, you're not contaminating your recyclables also. So the recyclables, 700 tons, our waste pickers are very happy to take them and monetize them. We encourage them to take the dry waste and sell it and make a little extra pocket money. So they're delighted with that, and it keeps them invested. You know, one of those reasons where you want your workers to be happy. They have a reason to sometimes sift through your waste. If they're seeing a stray bottle in your wet waste, you know, they'll remove it and make sure they get the money for it. So around 252 tons of compost produced over the past few years, which we so every team of volunteers wants the compost first. You know, there's like this big junk going on for the compost. I call it the compost youth in Nirvana, but I mean, it's a happy youth. These are the kind of youths one should have, you know. So, well, there's no money spent on purchasing any compost at all in the year. There are nutrients going to the soil. Look at the right picture. You can see the soil. This is one of our earlier pictures, and I like this picture because you can see the difference in the color of the soil. That light brown, anemic, I call it anemic soil. It has no blood in it. It has no energy in it. It has absolutely no life in it. And then you put that beautiful black compost. Just look at that. It just suddenly just gives life to that. So you need to do that. You need to add life to your soil. Just go and look. What does your soil look like? Does it look like that anemic, sad, unhappy piece of land? Or do you want it to look like brown, rich, happy, ready to give birth to life? And I think that's what it should be. So we have nutrients in the soil. There is a reduced usage of water because compost is so, it is so porous that it absorbs water and it keeps it for longer periods of time. So you don't, the drier soil, there's bigger chances of runaway, and you have no water percolating into the deeper levels of the soil. That's why there is, as you use more compost and your soil becomes compost rich, you will also use less water for watering your parks, your lawns, or your gardens, wherever you're using the compost, and less pesticides because you're making your soil healthy. It's like COVID times. You have good immunity, you're going to survive it. But if you have bad immunity, then you need the pesticides, you need the medicines, you need the multivitamins, you need everything. So here it is, we need to make the soil strong, strengthen it so that they are feeling soil is good. And there is income generated from our compost. Earlier, our horticulture vendor used to pay us for the compost he used to use in our parks. And the residents are given 12 kg free every year. They can use it. After that, if they want to buy over and above, they have to pay 20 rupees a kg for the compost. So this is what the gardens look like now, like so happy, so rich, full of color. And I think they really look like a happy picture. Looking after the team is extremely important. I cannot stress on this more, that the team that works for you, the waste pickers, the workers on the site, are your key people. We cannot afford to have them disoriented, unhappy, or demotivated is the word actually. So to keep them invested, we started with something called Worker of the Month Award, and we try to give them a special award, especially the Worker of the Month. It may be a small cash award or a gift award, and he gets to make a speech to his teammates, and that is what they love. So we've had the right picture, this man with the cap. I think he's Shibu. Shibu made such a passionate speech in Bengali that people just, they clapped. Of course, I couldn't understand what he was saying, but it must have been something really nice because his whole team was so happy. So keeping them invested, giving them a voice, asking them what their concerns are, keeping in touch with their worries and addressing them in a timely manner also keeps the system running well. So we tend to have these team huddles once in few months where we talk to the team members that if they are having any concerns. Sometimes I just do a surprise visit and meet them when they're just congregating before lunch and check if there are any concerns that need to be addressed. So team huddles, concerns and celebrations, we need to do it with them. Residents engagement, planting, touch and feel compost, kids, I think that's most important. Nowadays, we even have something called a compost day. So you can get the kids to come do some planting wherever there is some plantation happening, or just give the parks some compost. Let the kids be a part of that activity. On the right bottom, you can see some kids who are with the waste picker. They helped us do an audit. You know, kids volunteer and they come and they help us do an audit in each block, whether the residents are, segregating or not segregating, and they keep a track for us. So we also have our waste pickers also keep that track, but we love it when our kids come and want to do this job with us. So this is active participation, and that's always welcome. So awards come when you do something well, and the community loves awards, just like everybody does. You know, we grow up on this whole award high. When the award comes, it brings the community together. They all feel they're a part of something good, and they want to go on. We've also had visitors. We've had the commissioner come and visit us. Oops. We've had lots of residents come and see and learn, and that's the beauty. So you teach many people how you can start composting. Now, coming to no incineration, this is something on our charts. I'm going to talk about this very briefly now. I think we've way exceeded our time limit, but we did an experiment in Gurgaon with our very dynamic commissioner, Shri Yashpal Yadav ji. He fully supported this experiment where we got these 6 companies who wanted to sell 24-hour composters to the residents. And just on no basis, one couldn't say that, sorry, you cannot be empaneled on the MCG rolls to become a vendor. So we gave them space. The commissioner and the MCG team gave them space, gave them waste, gave them an electricity connection, and gave them a month to show their output and their processes and the consumables. So obviously the consumables were, they were using wet waste, a little bit of horticulture waste, sometimes, not all of them. And many of them were not even using any micro powder, and they were using a lot of electricity. So we had this complete chart of what their consumables were and what was the output. And we sent this to the Pusa Institute for test results for the compost. And we were, as expected, not surprised that the quality of compost, it was just not compost. It was something which was maybe pre-compost, but the constituent just couldn't have been compost because there was no micro powder, there were no dry organic matter. So not one of these systems was empaneled on the vendor list for our municipality. And we really have the commissioner to thank for the due diligence and the very, very structured experiment which was done in Gurugram. So there are many people here from Gurugram and maybe from outside. We request you to look up the MCG website and the new notification which has come out. They have shared the list of vendors they have empaneled, and they have clearly written that the 24-hour composting machines have not been empaneled. So please make your decisions wisely. Do not rush in like fools do and regret later, because you will have mounting electricity bills to process this quality of waste. It will just be like throwing it into a furnace and not really getting compost out of it. So these are the things to be kept into mind. This is the notification, very recent one, which has been sent out by the Municipal Corporation of Gurgaon, which clearly says that all bulk waste generators have to compost on site. So this is the reason, one of the main reasons why we are having this session here today. And so beware that there is not only the call of the heart, which wants you to do the right thing, but there is also the the official angle to it, that the municipality has announced that all bulk waste generators should compost their site. This is a list I'm sharing of all the vendors who have been impaneled with MCG as of now. Now, say for example, Jean spoke of Daily Dump, but they've not got themselves impaneled. So you could do your due diligence. If you come across a new way of composting, there's no reason why you should not explore it and look at it from all the angles that you have maybe heard today, and get them on board. Till about 3 years ago, there was only one solution in Gurgaon. There was only one person doing the composting solution. And it is with a little bit of courage, effort, that the new solutions have been brought in, and including Rahul Khera, people who have jumped in to give new solutions. So you need to experiment, you need to look around, you need to bring in fair competition. And that is what will keep the culture of this industry healthy in your city. If you're not here from Gurgaon, you need to bring in the competition, you need to bring in new people so that they can also get an opportunity to prove themselves. Do not hesitate to take the plunge to introduce somebody new. We did that. We got somebody in Nirvana who had barely done anything in north of India. We had our glitches, just like we had today with technology today. We seriously had some glitches, but we overcame them. And this is the 4th year running. So I'm very happy to say that sometimes you just need to work your way around problems. And it's not that you're not going to have problems. There's never a way when you don't have problems. You're going to have people cribbing, complaining. You'll have people turning up and making problems for you. But then that's part of life. There's always going to be issues. And each time you surmount those problems and say, phew, wow, thank God I got over this, there'll be a new problem to look up to. So do not be afraid. It's like any other challenge. And the result and the output is so satisfying that you may really want to go ahead and go for this challenge and go for it. So having said that, I want to thank all my speakers. Well, this is the last slide. You can join us on Facebook and NCR Waste Matters. If you have any more questions, we're happy to answer them. Get in touch with us. All 4 of us are on this forum, and we are very happy to help people who want to start. So I really want to end by thanking Keshav, Jean, and Veena. Put on your video. Now, all these people have not studied waste in any college, and they do not have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in waste management. But these are people who have worked from their heart. They started at home, but when they'd done everything they could in their home, they started in their community. And let me tell you, they're raring to go, not only in their city, but also in the country. So that is the kind of energy, when you do something good, it brings that kind of energy. You want to just spread the love. You want to go ahead and do more good things. So hats off to all these people. I think some university should really award a PhD to these friends of ours. And they really do deserve it. The kind of depth and width of work they have done in waste management. One more last thing I would say is that in your community, if you're unable to become a leader, please try and become a good team member. Not everybody can be a leader, but you can be a good, sane supporter. Be a supporter, be a team member. Do not be somebody who just comes and disrupts whatever is happening. And so just like all these people, they believe that, I'm reminded of the Vedic text which says that Vasudevai Kutumbha. So it's not just your own community that you need to look after, it's the whole world. That is, it's one loving home to everybody. We need to ensure that whatever we are doing, we spread the knowledge, share the love, take it out, and make sure that the world becomes a better place to be in. And with that note, thank you, Keshav. Thank you, Veena. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Vikas. And of course, Nidhi Batra, who helped us with all our tech. I'm so sorry for the glitches. I'll always be sorry for glitches because they somehow tag along with me wherever I go. But that's part of life. Thank you for being here, viewers. I can still see patient 60 sitting with us. I'm sure we've lost many along the way, but thank you so much. There will be a recording to share later, which we'll find a way to get to you. And hope you have a wonderful evening. That's the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone.